everyone, I am here to show you guys today about the Cricut Infusible ink sheets. I haven't used them yet, so this will be my first time, so we will be learning together, and I'm very excited. I have this wildflowers patterns box here, and I'm going to be using the two patterns here. This one's yellow with flowers, and this one's like a red pattern kind of. I know my lighting's a little weird, so it's harder to see, but that's what I'll be using. Okay, so I'm going to show you guys the slice and set method, which is what Cricut recommends when doing layering. If you layer on top of each other, the colors will bleed together, so you have to slice and set. So in order for us to do that, I already set up my design. I'm going to do a small little heart, and I have the Cricut shirt here, and I was actually sent an extra large, and that's quite big for me. So I'm going to actually repurpose it a little bit. I'm going to cut off the sleeve. I'm going to use it to put that heart on, and I'm going to frame it for like a little kind of reverse canvas style. So I'm really excited to try this out. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to select all, since this is all I have on my screen, and I'm going to slice. Oops, I have to weld all of my letters, my wording together. I forgot. I'm actually going, before I do that, I'm going to select it all, and then I'm going to duplicate it. And I'll show you why in a little bit. Okay. And now I'm going to select my original 3 pieces in my layers panel. I'm just holding the control key down on my keyboard as I select them each in my layers panel, and I'm going to weld it. And then once they're welded, they're one layer, and I can select all of them and slice it. Now I kept these pieces here on the side. We're going to pull all of this out, and this is going to be what we cut our yellow layer out of, and then we'll cut our red out of this, and we're going to hand place it. Or you can use tweezers. It's very important when weeding the transfer sheets that you don't use a weeding tool. It can scratch the ink off. So that's why I left these separately, because then I can go ahead and cut them, and I don't have to do it in exact order, which makes it a little bit of a saving. Excuse me, it makes it so that I can save more of the transfer sheet. So I'm going to click make it. Really important. You need to mirror your image. So before I do anything, I always go and I mirror all of my mats. If I had 18 mats, I would go through and I would mirror them all, and then I would go back and make any edits I want to do. But I always go and mirror all of my mats first, so I never forget. So I'm going to just spread these out a little bit more so that it's going to be easier for me to cut them apart. Okay, I'm going to press continue. I'm going to search to find my maker. And now with these sheets, you have to make sure that your hands are clean and dry. I'm going to use gloves just because I'm really nervous. It's really hot today. I've been out in the sun all day with my kids, so I'm going to use gloves because I don't want to sweat and ruin these. So I opened up my package. You can see it comes in this nice dark black bag. When storing your sheets, it needs to be in a dark, dry, temperature controlled room. So when I opened these originally, I just put them back in the bag so that I didn't have to worry about where I put it. Now in the center here, you're going to find, this is butcher paper. You need this when pressing. It holds up to the heat. You cannot use Teflon, you cannot use parchment paper, has to be butcher paper. So if you get the sheets, this has 4 sheets in it. 1 for each sheet here. You can reuse them if they don't get ink on them. If they have ink on them, you'll have to throw it away. So, but it's okay because you get it in each box of transfer sheets. But if you are doing the coasters, you will need to get butcher paper. For that, I have read Lowe's and Walmart have it, or you can get it on Amazon. Okay, so for my settings, I'm going to browse all materials. I'm just going to type in ink here so it will direct me right to it. I'm going to do the Infusible ink transfer sheet. You can favorite it if you want, and if you didn't already know, that little Cricut C next to it is to let you know it's a Cricut product. That goes for all the materials. If Cricut makes it, the C is next to it so you know you're using the right setting. So I'm going to select done, and I'm going to set this aside. I have my green mat out already. I have my little scissors and my tweezers, and I'm ready to go. And I'm going to put my gloves on. I'm going to cut the red first, which is on the outside here, so that works. This is going to be a little loud because I have a really sticky mat. So I'm just going to unroll it. And one of the coolest things about the Infusible ink transfer sheets is that you see kind of a dull color now. I'm going to show you guys now. They are going to be so bright and beautiful after they are heat pressed. It's crazy. You can see the back is shiny. That is your transfer sheet. So if you think HTV shiny side down, that's why we mirror our image, because we're going to cut it and then flip it. So that's why it's so important that you do that. Okay, so I'm going to stick this down. I'm going to do this. I have my Cricut brayer. I know that most people use it for fabric. I use it for every material. I love it for HTV, especially cardstock if my mat's a little bit older. So I'm going to go ahead, load my mat and cut it. And again, we are not using a weeding tool for this because it can scratch our ink. So it's really important to make sure that you don't use a weeding tool. You can use scissors, tweezers, I'm sorry. You can use tweezers. So, but I'm going to do this all with you. And like I said, I haven't done this yet. This is my first time. So I'm really excited to do it with you guys so we can see how it all goes. While this cuts, I'm going to show you. This is the navy blue and the yellow that come in this wildflower pattern box, and you can see how dull they are, and once you press it, it's beautiful. I actually, even though I haven't pressed the sheets yet, I have seen a lot of them done, so I can tell the difference, but I have done the coasters and the tote bags so far, and you guys could see just with the markers how vibrant and colorful they were after they were pressed. It was really, really beautiful, so I'm super excited to try these out because I can't wait to see the difference in all of it. Okay, so once this is done cutting, I'm going to take it off, and I will just use my scissors carefully so we don't scratch the ink to cut down my pieces. Now, you can cut this down beforehand, but usually when I have a new sheet of material like this, I like to cut it afterwards. For me, that just works better. My mat's super sticky, so this is how I take my materials off of everything. I flip it and I pull my mat from my material. Okay, I make sure I'm gonna go ahead and put this on. I always do that because it makes sure I don't ruin my material. It doesn't curl up, especially if you're using cardstock. It doesn't curl up on you, which is really, really nice. Because I had that happen when I first started. I will never forget me doing cardstock, and it was horrible. It was horrible because it kept curling everywhere. And I finally saw a video of somebody showing how to do it, and I was so excited. Okay, so I'm going to set that to cut, and while that's cutting, I'm going to trim down my sheet here. It can be a little hard to see on my video here, but in person you can see it. So it's not it's not hard to see in person. So I'm going to go ahead and cut this down here. Now, I don't have to worry about this too much because we will be taking these completely off the transfer sheet and placing them where they belong on the yellow patterned transfer sheet. So I'm not too worried about this. I'm cutting this carefully, looking close to make sure I'm not cutting anything off here. Alrighty. Alright, and I'm really excited because I have seen videos of it, but I haven't done it myself, where you're going to kind of crack it. I see it cut through on a piece there. You're going to kind of crack it to peel it. I'm not worried about scratching the ink that I'm not using, so I'm just going to use my little tweezers here to kind of pull up a corner. This is what I do when I weed my regular adhesive vinyl or HTV. I always pull up a little corner here. So I'm going to do that and I can see. There we go. Using gloves makes it a little bit harder, but I'm really worried about ruining it, so. Okay. So we'll go ahead, make sure I'm gonna crack it. This is so weird to weed because it's got that carrier sheet kind of like HGV, and then you listen to that, and that's really weird. So I'll go back through and I can use my tweezers to pull out the centers of like the O and the A and stuff like that. Didn't cut quite through all the way there. So I'm going to do that all off screen, and I'll come back when we're ready to press. Okay, I have this piece all weeded. So you'll see here, reversed. I'm going to place the red pieces into the letters here where they go. It's going to be a little bit kind of like a puzzle. Now, if you're doing the slice and set method, something really important to keep in mind is that whatever your biggest part of the design is going to be, make sure that when you cut your carrier sheet down, you have enough room. Mine's going inside, but if you had multiple parts to your design, you're only going to use one carrier sheet because you're slicing and you're going to take it off of here and put it on. So make sure that your one transfer sheet has enough room for all of your pieces. So I'm going to carefully take this off here. This is definitely thicker, kind of like a cardstock, like a heavier weight cardstock. So, but it still could rip easily, so be really careful when you're taking it off. It is thicker, but you could rip it easily, so be careful. So I'm just going to take this and I'm going to hand place it afterwards. I'll probably reset this all a little bit after I film this before I press it, just to make sure it's in there really good. I like to get my face all up in it, but that would block the camera. So I'll go back through afterwards and I will double check everything. I'm going to use my brayer again just to make sure that that's really adhered to that sheet. I'm going to do that for all of these pieces here, and then we'll get ready to press. So this is really a little bit time consuming if you're not wanting to layer a lot. Keep this in mind. I personally love layering, so I was super excited to try this method, but I can see where it can be a little bit time consuming if you're not really wanting to do too much of that. But keep in mind, definitely use a script font. I knew about the slice and set method before I attempted this, and I knew how it was going to go about. So I can see in the back here too, I can double check that if everything's lined up well. So I'll go back and do that after. But keep in mind that if you do a print or a non-cursive font, that it might be a little bit more time consuming for you. So that's why I chose a cursive font for this one. Because I knew I was going to have to hand place everything, and it would be a little bit easier to do that if I used a cursive font, because everything is kind of connected and it comes off a little bit more in one piece. Okay, so I'll go over this all again and then I'll be back to press. One thing that I did want to show you guys, I actually ripped this cue right here as I was weeding it. I'm going to, you can see that there's a little bit of the paper backing still stuck to it. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to cut that off. And I'm going to place this. And I wanted to show you guys that because I want to see, I have a feeling because of the way the color bleeds, and you can see I took my gloves off, it was a little bit easier to hand place this without the gloves. They were a little bit cumbersome. So, but I wanted to show you guys this because I want to see if we're going to be able to tell that I ripped that part. I know when you do HTV, if you rip it, it's like you're done. You can tell, it's obvious. You can tell that there's this, a piece there that it overlaps. It looks like it cracked. So I'm really curious to see if this is going to show it. From my understanding, it won't because of the way the color bleeds into the material. So I wanted to show you guys that because I'm really curious to see how that will go. Okay, I'm back and ready to press. I'm using my baby Cricut Easy Press. When doing the transfer, anything with the Infusible ink products, you need to make sure that your press is big enough to cover your whole area because you can only do one press. That's what's recommended. Doing multiple presses can cause varied results, so they don't recommend it. I made sure that my design would be big enough to fit under my heat plate since I have the little one here. Now I'm going to go to the Easy Press heat transfer guide. I will share the link with you guys in the comments to make it easier. You select your press, you go down to heat transfer material, there's iron-on, and all the way at the bottom you can find Infusible ink. I will choose the transfer sheet, and my base material is the t-shirt because I cut it up. I'll press apply, and it tells me 385 for 40 seconds with light pressure and warm peel. You can do Fahrenheit, Celsius, and you're going to see lots of pictures on the side and full instructions. So I'm going to turn this on, and I still have it up to 400 for my coaster, so I'm going to set it down to 385 and 40 seconds. And while that heats up, I'll go ahead and go through the supply list with you guys, and I'll also do our prep and all the important steps that you're going to need to know. Now this doesn't take long to heat up, so it's probably going to be sitting for a second. I love how fast this heats up, especially when my husband tells me last second he needs a baby gift for work tomorrow. Okay, so the supplies we are going to need, in our case, the Cricut Easy Press 2. You can use the original Easy Press, but you will have different times and temperatures. The Easy Press mat, I have the 8x10 one right here. The transfer sheet design, which I have to the side. My t-shirt blank, you can see it here. I hacked it up. I cut off the sleeve and cut it apart. Butcher paper, which I left over on my workstation, so I'll have to go grab that in a second. Cardstock, 80-pound white, or 4 layers of butcher paper. It's very important to have the white because the color can possibly transfer to your shirt, or your item. So keep in mind it needs to be white, and white butcher paper. The lint roller, which I got from Cricut, so I have that, and tweezers, which I have over my workstation, and I'm not sure where I need those, so I'm going to keep reading. Preheat Easy Press, place t-shirt on clean mat, insert cardstock inside t-shirt to prevent bleed through. I hacked it up so I won't have to do that. We can just place it on the cardstock. I'm going to lint roll the shirt, cover the shirt with butcher paper larger than your heat plate, preheat t-shirt for 15 seconds, and remove butcher paper from top of shirt. So I'm going to grab my butcher paper, and now that my press is at temperature, we'll do that. Okay, so I've got my cardstock, and the great thing about this heat transfer guide over here is that I can just set it up right up here and read through it so I don't forget in case I do, which often happens. My kids or my husband distracts me, so it's great to have that as a reference. So I place the t-shirt on clean mat, insert the cardstock, which we're just placing it on top since I hacked this up. Okay, we're going to lint roll the t-shirt. This is extremely important. I always leave the dirty sheet on and rip it off as I do it so nothing gets on the clean sheet in between presses. The reason that you lint roll is if there is any lint on your shirt, the dye from the lint can actually cause blue speckles in your design. So it's really important to make sure that you lint roll really well. You don't want any blue speckles in your design, especially if you don't have a blue design. That will look a little funny. Oh, I cut that too much. Okay, throw that over there. And I can see I already have lint on here. I've had this shirt for a few weeks now, and it's been sitting out a little bit. So definitely want to make sure I do it really well. That's extremely important. Okay, this is really sticky. Okay, that looks pretty good. So then I'm going to cover the t-shirt with my butcher paper, larger than my heat plate, and preheat for 15 seconds. Now, I don't like to have to readjust my temperature, my time on my easy press. So I just will stop at 25 seconds because that will be 15 seconds from 40. So I'll just stop it when it gets to 25 seconds so that I don't have to change my temperature from it already being set. So then my preparation instructions say remove butcher paper from the t-shirt. Now for application, place design face down, liner side up, cover with clean butcher paper. Press with light pressure at 385 for 40 seconds. You can even see, I don't know if you could see it, but there's some smoke coming off. This is why I use the butcher paper, because it can withstand those temperatures. Smooth that out a little bit. And I have like a nice little indent here from my easy press so I can see where I press it. I know it's not perfectly straight, but I'm okay with that because I'll be making a frame so I can cut it up and kind of work around it. Okay, so I'm going to do this. Cool completely and slowly remove liner. And the tweezers, it says, if the transfer sheet remains on the shirt, remove with tweezers. So that's what the tweezers were for. So now you can see too, I have the outline of my press here. So I can go ahead and line that up with my design and then put my press right back in the same spot and make sure I'm pressing exactly where I need to. Light pressure, just one hand, light pressure on there. And we're going to let that go for the 40 seconds. Now it says cool completely. At the top it said warm peel. So, but from what I'm mostly seeing, it says cool completely. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. Now the great thing too, and I'll show you after I'm done pressing, at the bottom there are care instructions. It says machine wash inside out with cold water and mild detergent, tumble dry low or line dry, and do not use fabric softener, dryer sheets, or bleach. So that is good to know. I like that it tells you all there because you never know how everybody washes, and it's a little bit different from HTV. Okay, so I can remove my butcher paper, and I don't know if you can see it. It could be hard to tell. It's a little bit yellow from that high temperature. Okay, so I'm going to let this cool completely for about 2 to 5 minutes, and then I'll come back and peel it with you guys. Okay, I went and got my tweezers while I was waiting for it to cool down, just in case anything, my transfer paper does get stuck. And I'm going to carefully pull this up. Gosh, this is beautiful. The colors are so nice. Wow. Okay, so I'm going to peel this off, and I don't know if we can repress these and get some decent results, but I might save this and try it, and I'll let y'all know. But look how beautiful this is, and you can see I didn't have any bleed through underneath, so that's really nice. And we can check out that Q up close. It does look like I have a little bit of fading on the inside of that Q. No, that's just the color of that flower, because you can see it over here too. So no fading, but you can see up close. You can't tell where I cracked that Q. So that's pretty awesome to know. Okay, and you can see, I want to show you guys too, this is soft. It's so soft and comfy. You can see you can stretch it, which is really nice. My husband will like that. He likes more comfortable shirts. He's really picky, so these will be really nice to buy. So I'm going to cut this down and frame it, but I just wanted to show you guys.